Hey, Brittany.
Hi, Cassie.
Hey, Snarkers. Welcome back to the Snarking Lot. Brittany, what's up?
I am not. I'm busy looking at your admiring your nice sweatshirt for all the people watching on YouTube's.
Should we describe it for the people not watching on the tubes of you?
Yeah.
It's thank you for your feedback sweatshirt. And part of the letters and feedback are falling into a trash can. So that's how we feel about feedback.
It is a steaming pile of garbage.
It is most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. Not all the time. Most of the time.
No, but a lot of the time, too much of the
Mhm.
time.
Good majority. Thank you
People
for
could
noticing.
recycle. Mm-hmm.
It's very high quality sweatshirt.
It's good. It's good. Nice cozy one for the winter months here.
It's nice. It's like a longer one.
Oh, nice.
Those ones, not too short, doesn't get caught on the hips. It's good. I
Good.
highly suggest it to anybody who's sick of people's feedback.
Ooh, spectacular. Give me 14.
Just to throw them out, just like Oprah giving out cars. Just
There
toss
you
out.
go. There
You
you go.
know, it's
Like a
like
t-shirt cannon, a sweatshirt cannon.
a sweatshirt cannon. That's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need to invest in some Snarking Lot sweatshirts. We have Snarking Lot mugs that we're
We
both
do.
drinking out of.
We do.
Mm, cheers. Well, it's been a bit. Last time we had a lot of fun talking with Michelle.
Mhm.
Having a great guest. Learned a lot about how you can run the New York City Marathon, raise money for a cause. We each made a donation to said cause.
Mhm.
Empower. We encourage other people to do the same. It's a great organization. And so we did it in honor of our friend Michelle.
Yes.
Good times. What else is new with you? How's your mental health doing? Let's check it out.
Hmm. We're just checking boxes. We're
Time
okay.
space continuum boxes or
Yeah,
just boxes?
basically. Checking boxes and to do stuff. Going through the motions. How about you?
Yeah. Leaning into Christmas, leaning into
Yeah?
the Christmas vibe. I fixed my Christmas tree, which when it got put up, got brand spanking new lights on it, and like a third of the new one of the two strings of lights, a third of one of them blew out like 2 minutes into being on the tree. So I finally fixed the tree so that it's fully lit and doesn't look like it's having like a sad depression moment, like in the top third. So leaning into
Is there
that.
anything that undoes the Christmas spirit, like going through the work of putting up all your fucking Santa throw up shit only to have it blow out within like 5 minutes of said,
Well, you know
you
what I
know?
said to you on Snap the night I was doing it. I was like, this is bullshit.
'Tis the season, motherfuckers.
Merry Christmas. As I'm yelling at the cat to stop chewing on the tree and stop taking bows off presents, like every time, like then I'm
Mhm.
yelling and then I'm just like, Merry Christmas.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
no, I'm all right. I'm hanging in. I realized, like I mentioned to you and the universe with an unspecified amount, that I've gained quite a bit of weight in the last 3 months. So yesterday I started running again.
Very good.
Um, was like so bad that I actually said holy shit out loud when I stepped on the scale. And I wasn't like I was just making sure the scale worked, honestly, like because I'm not a big weigh myself
Yeah.
person because I really don't care. But then I was like, no, I care. I care a little bit, you know. Um, just a smidge. So we'll work on that.
And what are you going to do for some things to help you work on that?
Oh,
Yeah.
so not
How do you feel
Herbalife.
about pyramids? What's your favorite shape?
Um, I hate pyramids. And so it's more like, what am I not gonna do? I'm not
Mhm.
gonna do Herbalife. I'm not gonna do Arbonne. I'm not gonna do um Avocare. About Avocare in a while.
Has
Hmm,
anybody
maybe it finally fell off the face of the planet.
got shit
I'm
out?
just gonna do exercise and like eat healthy food and drink water.
Well, that's boring.
It is boring. It doesn't cost me hundreds of dollars a month, and it seems to work every time I do it. So I'm gonna
Boring ass social
give it a
media
try.
post. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. It's like, can I sell you? Nothing.
Can I not explicitly talk about between the lines, say that I shit my guts out for 2 weeks. Lifestyle change.
All I gotta do is gotta eat that garlic bread um
Oh,
from that restaurant in Milwaukee if I want to do that. So
Barberries. Magnificent.
Barbieri's.
Garlic butter bread just dripping.
I mean, you could literally squeeze it out. We talked about that on our foodie episode, but you could literally like go ring. You could like
It could be
um
used as a backup for colonoscopy. If you know that not
colonoscopy
great
prep.
Kool-Aid. Yeah, the not great Kool-Aid ever runs out. They're just like, here, go eat a couple bricks. Eat a couple garlic bread, butter bricks at Barbieri's.
I'm gonna take your cue by you saying colonoscopy to take us into a hard right into the episode.
Wow.
Um,
Up into up through
yep.
the sphincter of truth here. Okay.
Into the sigmoid
Ooh.
colon.
Ooh.
Mm. Um, so colonoscopies are something you get at a healthcare facility. I'm gonna just walk us
Allegedly.
back 6 degrees of separation. You get it
Sometimes.
at a healthcare facility.
Maybe. Do you always though? Can you?
And if you're a fortunate enough American, you might have health insurance to think that you might have that procedure covered. And if you're fortunate enough, you might never have to get upset on the phone about a claim being denied in the American healthcare system. So I'm just like walking us back to today. We're going to talk about this major American development, and big news headline out of the United States of America, which is United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson being murdered in cold blood on the street in New York City. So this is straight up special edition of the Snarking Lot, Thoughts and Prayers edition. Brittany, let's
Mm-hmm.
let's get right into it. What were your thoughts when you heard this news? Like
Um,
immediate reactions.
well, I went on Twitter because fuck you, Elon. I'm not calling it X, and I'm gonna just call it Twitter. Just piss you
Good.
off more, you man, baby. And I feel like it was pretty quick online that the video was out. And um again, because some of the other horrific videos I've seen of stuff on there, I was like, okay. Um, like wow, shit. And I think immediately I was like, is this real? Like, I
Oh,
started
you
seeing
oh
it
you were
all
like, is it
over.
real?
Yeah,
Oh,
like the
interesting.
video of it, because I was like, and you can just see it happening. You can't tell who's who, what, whatever. But then I started seeing actual news outlets reporting that it had happened and went, oh, okay. And I
Huh.
guess my immediate thing is I'm surprised it's taken this long, given,
Oh,
books have been written on this, how many stories we've heard on things, people's own personal experiences. I'm sure a lot of listeners can probably think of either something from their life or loved one's life where they've had issues with health insurance and coverage and things, and when it comes down to it. So, I mean, yeah, I guess truthfully, I was like, wow,
hmm.
I'm shocked something like this hasn't happened already with
Hasn't
just,
happened before. Okay.
yeah, with the history of things. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised in the sense of like big thing, kind
Hmm.
of like just like generically speaking. But yeah, I was just kind of like, oh yeah. Not in the sense of like being um not not being nonchalant about a person losing their life, but just kind of like nonchalant in that, yeah, okay. But I was like doom scrolling immediately. Like I could not like it, like I went down like the rabbit hole of like keeping track of updates and like what's happening with this. Like, is the guy caught yet? Like da 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 da. Like, what's the story? Like, I immediately wanted to know the origin story of said person
Hmm.
that did this or allegedly did this. And so I kind of was like, I was just super interested in the backstory. Like, are we going to catch him so that we can know exactly the motivation?
Hmm.
That's it. Yeah, And we call this Thoughts and Prayers edition, right? I did a little post on some stuff on my Facebook, and we don't even a lot of Americans, right? Like in the sense of like don't really care when school children die in school via guns. So what would make us think that the CEO of a major company that makes good work out of, denying people things they need, like why would we think there's going to be a big outpouring of sympathy and compassion? Like, you know what I mean? Like if kids can't get it, why
Right.
would he get it? So those were my core thoughts.
Yeah.
Again, horrible that children have lost a father and all of the things, totally 100%. But, you know,
Yeah.
American healthcare, it's one of our
Mhm.
favorite topics. We think it
Mhm.
might be one of the reasons why the Snarking Lot even started.
That's right.
Talk about this so much, right? So we're like, now we're officially on our origin soapbox, enjoying talking about this very sensitive topic. So let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back. When did you get spicy? Like, when did you start to identify that you had a core in you of spice about that the way that the American healthcare system functions is fucked up?
I would say probably throughout childhood, hearing people talk, hearing adults talk about stuff if they were to get sick, or let's say somebody had maybe a hospital stay or in a nursing home or something. I remember from my grandpa, when my grandpa died, I know he'd been in the hospital or in a nursing home for a while, maybe hospital for a while. And I remember my grandma would come over, whenever she'd be at our house for years afterward, she would have bring a bill with her and stuff. I think to go through it with my mom or to make sure, because I
Really?
mean, it was years later, or like much later on before everything got resolved and all of the stay was paid off. I mean, he died in 94, and I remember just my mom, but I remember most of the way through the rest of the 90s. Um,
Sure.
like at some point she'd get out of her, she'd get a piece of paper out of her purse or the bill or something at some point. Like let's say it was a
Hmm.
holiday or she happened to be over, we were over at her house for something, and like show my
Interesting.
mom and probably my mom to kind of look through stuff. And I don't know. I mean, I'm imagining me seeing what the hell they were billing or like seeing and make sure shit was valid, and stuff. And it was a lot. It was years before all of a sudden that just wasn't a thing anymore. I think I remember asking my mom like, "Oh, she's not taking that piece of paper out anymore, like a thing out." Um,
Interesting.
so that I was 6 when he died, so that probably, all the way up through till probably, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, 12. That uh and again, that's I think too, that's when I feel like middle school and high school, as I started to read more and stuff, again, seeing this
Yeah.
more in the national light. And then I remember 2000, oh gosh, what is this? 2008. Um when my uncle died, he was sick. So he was terminal. He knew he was terminal for 3 months. And I remember he was terminal, and he was a Vietnam vet, and the wait to get into like the VA for stuff, or to the
Hmm.
delay for
Oh,
anybody willing to start treatment for anything, or and again,
yeah.
he knew it was prolonging it, but just because rest his soul, he was a dink with a good heart, not always great with money, and that was
Okay.
on. But just, I think, figuring out finances for stuff. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
again, he had 3 to 4 months to live by that point when he found out. But I mean, I remember it was delayed several weeks
Sure.
to start any sort of treatment to try and make him comfortable, because I think they were figuring out payments and whatnot. And I'm
Of
like, are
course.
you kidding me? He's gonna be like, we know where this is going. Like, he's not gonna have to do it very long. And also,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
when it's gonna go downhill, it's gonna go downhill very fast. Like, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
And so I was in college at that point, and then yeah, just kind of steadily grew from there.
Grew from there. Interesting. So like another similarity, our grandpas each died in 94.
Hmm.
Interesting
My
to not
God,
know
I did
that.
not know that. We have that.
94. It's another
94.
94 over here.
Mm-hmm.
That
Over
is so
94.
interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, July 94 over here. Um, yeah,
How about
that's
you?
so interesting. Well, you know a little bit about this. So, a recurring memory I have, and like I've shared on this pod before, is that like my mom had bipolar disorder from the time she was a teenager. She had me when her first child when she was 29. But so she was like seeing a psychiatrist, was well medicated, like it was very well regulated, largely speaking. And ironically enough, like my dad had pretty good insurance, like actually really, really good insurance through his job. So, I think we just paid some like minor copays for most stuff. So we were in a really good spot with that coverage situation. So did not actually have like an experience of really being fucked over by a private healthcare system, like private health insurance too much in memory. But what I do distinctly remember is my mom would always forego her blood tests that her psychiatrist wanted her to get because she was taking lithium. And lithium is very potent and very hard on your kidneys and your liver. And so you really should, like, if you're on lithium, get again on some sort of regular cycle tests. But for whatever reason, private health insurance would not cover it. And so I remember her being like, "Oh, my psychiatrist told me I should get my test, but I'm not going to get them because insurance doesn't cover it. And they're like hundreds of dollars. And I don't want to spend the hundreds of dollars." And I'm like, "What do you mean they don't cover it?" Like, I don't think, like, at the time I was so young, I didn't really realize like what cover actually meant, but I knew that it was like there wasn't going to be some sort of financial support for it. And therefore she wasn't going to do it. So that always stuck with me. It was just like this kind of beginning and again. The insurance really was pretty good through my dad's work, and so it's fine. But then 2007 happens. The documentary Sicko comes out, Michael Moore's documentary Sicko. And I watched Sicko, which is, him taking a look at the American healthcare system or lack thereof of health and what other countries do or do not do and how it compares to us. And I'm just like, this is so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we accept this? So that was kind of like after I watched that, I was like, why do we accept this as a system of normal? And the rest is history.
I feel like I sat on your living room floor some summer or something. I feel like we'd watch Sicko for in college for a class because I think
Did you?
I had to watch that and I had to watch um what's the one where he did it's one of the earlier one. Maybe it's his first one, the one that he did on the motor company,
Oh,
Detroit. Like
Roger and Me. Yes.
yes, yes. Because I think we had to watch, I think I had to for class, like watch them both and then like write a paper on like common themes and like differences and I don't know, something on it. Because I remember having to sit in the library for Roger and Me because they had it. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, I can recall one of the times I watched Sicko being on your living room floor at home. And like, for funsies when we hang out, let's watch Sicko.
For funsies. This is like, let's
Hmm.
kick back and relax together. Let's
Yeah,
watch
let's hang out,
Sicko.
out in the summer and let's watch a movie that's gonna make us enraged. Sounds about right. Hmm.
Sounds about right. I have to see if I should ask my dad if he still has that in the DVD cupboard because I don't have it and I know I bought it and I want it back. So I want to do like a viewing of it or something,
Yeah.
for some upcoming things. But, um, so that's interesting. You bring up something about like making payments, right? So we'll talk more about like medical debt in a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm saving something from, yes.
Yeah, for that.
Yeah.
So this news happens with the CEO being killed.
Hmm.
And before we really ever like knew anything about the motivation, didn't like, when we planned for this episode, the assailant was not in custody yet, right? So we were talking about it in the sense of he was still out there, blah, blah, blah. But what do you think? Why do you think the internet was because the internet was immediately like making really aggressive jokes,
Hmm.
memes, and things that were serious were very unsympathetic to the fact that a man had been killed in cold blood in the street, right? Like it was just like a total just like apathy toward a man being dead.
Hmm.
Okay. So why do you think that is? Like we talked about our reaction, but like I mean it probably seems obvious to listeners based on our commentary here, but it was like immediately it's like right to the savagery immediately. Why do you think that is?
I think when you create a culture of profit over people, you should
Oh.
not be surprised when you have a dystopian hellscape where people cannot afford things or get angry at a system that fucks them over. Uh, should it appear someone has retaliated against said system,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, this is, I think, a great unifier, or at least on the surface level. One of those solidarity things, no matter, for a lot of people, I think no matter where you vote or how you stand, most people can agree the health system is messed up in this country. They have different opinions on how to quote unquote fix it, but I feel like a lot of people can understand, or again, have either personal experience or degrees of separation away from people who have experience or will have experience at some point in their lives with running into some challenges around it where maybe you have claims denied by health insurance, or you thought you were covered for something, and then it turns out, oh no, you got the doctor who was moonlighting in the facility you went into. You did your homework and went to the place that was covered, but it turns out she got the doctor who was moonlighting, who's actually not in network. So out of network, or well, we don't think this, the doctor wants you to have this because of your condition or something, or to test for something, and well, we don't think it's necessary. We're only going to cover this amount. And a lot of times now too, it used to be people who denied those claims. Now it's AI just
Now
going
it's
through
AI. Yeah.
increasing things, so there's no rhyme or reason, and it's
Automated.
designed to make a profit. So I mean, he's it was his 10 years CEO and just working in a company that is, I mean, responsible for how many hundreds of thousands of people hurt, suffering worse, or being dead. Um,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
that. I think it's people being like, wow, I think a lot of it is, well, he's responsible for he's murdered how many people? Okay, whatever. They'll just get someone else in. Like he knew what the company was doing. So I think there's some of that. Or just
Sure.
like, oh, whatever. Or, oh, oh, it probably wasn't a peaceful death, but like, oh, he died. He didn't have all his claims denied and have to suffer and suffer and suffer horrendous
Mm.
things until, oh, okay, well, whatever. Like, cool. Also, he's rich, whatever. I think that
Yeah.
there's a lot of that. Or again, people are just like, cool, people die every day. Or we've seen people die in any number of ways online from things like, yeah, whoop de do.
Well, you're alluding to it like populist angst and outrage,
Hmm.
which we've talked lightly about together on this pod and definitely not on the pod about like,
Hmm.
people's wonderings about how can someone like Donald Trump get elected? Well, again, surface level, if you're saying the things that connect to populist anger, populist screwovery,
Yep.
right? Even if in real life it isn't going to play out via Donald Trump, which I argue, like, you know,
Right.
he says the things that connect to the populist anger. It connects to the underpinning of like, I am a little person getting fucked.
Hmm.
And well, yeah, right. So stop questioning how and why we can see these things happen if this is like how people feel about like economic circumstance and their inability to get out of their economic circumstance or being constantly
Hmm.
poured on in terms of debt, not being able to be, mobile throughout the class system, like all of that, right? Like, why are we shocked? Why are we shocked? Don't ask yourself how Donald Trump can get elected, you
I
know?
would say too, if you think this is bad, just as things get worse and worse for people with the cost of living, this, I mean, healthcare, insert thing here, rent, like housing prices, food. You don't think this is going to
Housing,
happen?
healthcare, food. What do
Anything
you need to
for just
live?
basic things. Like you don't think that, I mean, which the rich should eat the rich, they should be worried about people, and they do fear people because there are way more people who are not in the upper echelon and 1% than there are in that. So yeah, they absolutely do fear class solidarity and the masses because yeah, if we all figure out that there's more of us than them, that's a real problem for them to
It
impose their
is.
will. and to take power back for the people. But I guess too, I'm like, I mean, this is, I guess too, that goes back to why I wasn't as shocked. I'm like, well, when you build the system that is designed to build profit off of suffering and doesn't
Mhm.
actually address root causes. Oops, snarking lot mug. Oop. Um,
Cheers.
product placement.
Cheers, my friend.
When you design a system that is based on profiting off people being sick and unhealthy all the time, they don't make
Yes.
profit, which ties into, you can get in the whole ties with pharmaceutical and everything of like keeping
Yeah.
people unhealthy and sick because it's more money. Because it's not pay to cure cancer. It doesn't pay to cure things or prevent things. God forbid, upstream public health buzzword.
Oh, we could go on for hours, like if we
We
went into
could.
these different diversions, but
It
like
doesn't pay for that.
absolutely.
So yeah, when you create the system that keeps people down like that, I mean, eventually people are gonna snap because also what do they have to lose? Like what if you've suffering or if you someone you love is suffering enough, like it's gonna drive people to do stuff. So I would say again, yeah, healthcare, housing, food. If you think this is a one-off, like this more of this is coming if stuff doesn't change.
Well, and so you talking about as we talk about, class solidarity and things like that. You and I have talked about this quote that everyone uses, like of Martin Luther King Jr.'s. And it's not that it isn't accurate, but they cut it off at the end and they don't include everything from it. And the
Mhm.
quote that people cite is of all forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane. Okay. But if you actually go full, like in it, it says because it often results in physical death. So the full quote that starts at that same point is of all forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and the most inhumane because it often results in physical death. And it continues, I see no alternative to direct action and creative nonviolence. I want to emphasize nonviolence to raise the conscience of the nation. So
Mhm.
while Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would not condone the actions of Luigi Mangione in terms of taking, like obviously physical violence that did result in death, um, you know, he was indignant toward that because the healthcare system was literally killing people.
Well, and that's where everyone's like, that's why everyone's like, oh, Martin Luther, MLK Jr. wouldn't have wanted this. And like, that's why Malcolm X is the scary one. He preached action. I'm like,
Right.
no, it just, MLK Jr. got there, just took him a bit longer to
It took
finally,
him longer,
no,
yeah.
at some point, if nothing's changing, like at some point when you have exhausted all your other options, like what is left?
He
What have you
says
left on the
creative
table?
nonviolence, right? So I
Right,
think he would be supportive of a lot of different things,
right.
just shy of like
Right.
what
Whereas
Luigi
like
did.
Malcolm X was like, nah, you got to do direct action, get in the
Right.
streets. And I mean, there's that argument or that kind of debate still plays out today in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
protesting and doing stuff. Like, oh, you can go stand in front of United Healthcare's thing and protest,
Mm-hmm.
or or are there other ways to take action? And like, how do you affect change? And I
Right.
mean, with this, I mean, they'll just put someone else in. So I mean, you could argue, well, what did this
They already did.
really solve? They're not suddenly going to be like, we're done making profit. Like we're done getting rich off of people getting fucking over
Correct.
people. Like there's someone
Correct.
in the wings waiting. So yeah, you on the one hand, like you could say did this really do anything? Although I think it, at least for a bit, woke some people up in other companies in terms of what they did or didn't start denying, or other places higher up in other like non-healthcare companies, or all of a sudden you're getting these stories now of companies that are very good at not price gouging for their products or for different things, or oh,
Mm,
the list of good ones and all this, like waking people up to stuff. But yeah, I guess when you make things so bad for people and you don't really leave them an alternative, again, I just go, I mean, what did you expect? Like if you kind of run people down, ragged to a point, like where they don't feel like they have another option, you leave them like
how
really, really pretty extreme things.
we're not going to get down the who is Luigi Mangione rabbit hole because like then we could
Yeah.
be here for another 6 hours. But we will say it's interesting to look up the background of him and his family because, like, we keep saying at face value intentionally because one could make an argument that the economic circumstances of said individual would not, at face value, lead you to think that he probably was affected significantly by, private health insurance, um, claim denial, like all of those things. So it's going to be continually interesting to see how the circumstances and facts of this case play out. Period. Because I personally don't want to elaborate on it too much because it's just like there's too much kind of left to people's imaginations at this point. But at the beginning, when this was all coming out, it was like it has to be someone who got completely fucked, like working class got fucked, them or their family got screwed, like that kind of thing. And so I think to me, what is the most intriguing thing is that I don't, I question whether or not populist anger, personal populist anger, at least, is the root of this, because it just doesn't, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 in this case
Right.
for me.
Well, I brought up to you in pre-production.
Oh, now we don't refer to it as preppy prep anymore. We refer to it as
Preppy, pre-production,
pre-production.
post-production. Uh,
Pre-production.
we're official.
Ugh,
Season 2, bitches, we're official as fuck.
official as fuck.
Talk about current
Alternative
events for a
episode
whole
title.
podcast episode. I brought up to you in preppy pre,
Pre-pre-pre-pre.
that I was listening to a podcast. It's a news one. It's run by a comedian, Lee Camp, but
Sure.
he was doing. I was listening to it last night, and he brought up the point with his co-host that this is like the one shooting we've had where mental health of the shooter has just never entered the conversation somehow. That everybody immediately was like, "Oh
Mm,
yeah, it's got to be somebody really pissed
mm.
off, got fucked over by health
Sure.
insurance." Thing like just because everyone was like, oh yeah, we could totally, this is understandable, this is, I don't say we all support it, but like, oh, this is more relatable, like, oh, I could see why God, they've United's fucked a lot
Right.
of people over, like
Right. Right.
everybody
Right.
just immediately like, yes, figured, I think, that it was some sort of vigilantism or again some sort of retaliation
Some
from
sort of,
somebody
yeah.
who's been uh persecuted by the company. That yeah, we these
I know.
conversations about mental health and bad people with guns and good people with guns, yeah, that's nowhere to be found. That discourse is, when was the last time something was
That was
visible?
that's
Didn't
such a
have
good
that.
point. That is such a good point. Well, and everyone sarcastically extending their thoughts and prayers, which is the episode title of this,
Yeah.
snarkily, snark intentionality here. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm sending my thoughts and prayers, but I don't know if they're in network or not. Like a bunch of those kind of like quips of using
Hmm.
health insurance lingo,
Hmm.
like against the situation, in network, out of network,
Yep.
claims, like all the different things you experience when you're in the intricate web of bureaucracy, you know?
When the reward comes out, the reward amount, people are like, you want that much for that? Are you kidding me? You're gonna have to make a lot more. People in New York
Right.
coming on and being like, well, they're asking for for tips and stuff, but since my vision is out of my health insurance doesn't cover vision, I guess I haven't seen anything. Nope. Sorry. And just
You've
I think it's
seen,
again, it's that thing of like, fine, you want to have a cold-hearted, well, seemingly very cold-hearted company and business approach, because again, at the end of the day, you don't care that people are sick or hurting or need something. It's all about money. And can you gouge them for as much money as possible? Then, yeah, don't expect the populace to turn around when something happens and, be sympathetic for you.
you
Like,
know, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe this is like a snark divergent point. Okay. So here's something that I'm reflecting on that I think I actually mean. Now, do I think someone like Brian sits in his golden CEO tower when he did, right? Like, do I think he sat there and like Dr. Evil's his hands and puts his like, pinky up to his mouth and goes, today I'm going to, like, I want people to suffer. I don't think that's true. Like, I think people are mentally agile enough to convince themselves that they're doing something good, or because they work in health, a health related field, that they're doing something good. And you're right, it's fueled by money. Like it's
hmm?
a rich person wanting to become richer. So do I think they do it like, ooh, I can hurt people today? No. but like the consequences of their actions are that they do. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm running a company so well that I make a shitload of money. You know? Like
Although
I don't think.
he
I don't
was
know.
being investigated for insider trading and stock
He was.
pumping. So, but also he was in the company for a while and then got up there. Like, how your
Yeah,
company's making money. So no, I don't think he
totally.
sat there and checked, we're gonna fuck over these 5 people or these 100
Right.
people, these 100 families today. No, but it's like, I'm like, damn well that like in order to make your money,
What you have
like
to do to make the money.
yes, and you're
Yeah.
approving like the practices and whatever, the overall things. It's coming
Oh,
down. Like,
excuse me a moment.
yeah,
While I bring up the practices. So you this list of things that I put in my social media post, you bring up
yeah.
mental health care. For example, the one thing that was striking to me, which I didn't know until I read this really good. Where's the piece from? I'm looking it up so people can look at from the New Yorker, entitled "A Man Was Murdered in Cold Blood and You're Laughing?" Question mark. So government investigators found that United Health had used algorithms to identify mental health care providers who they believed were treating patients too often. And it was something along the lines of they would actually have agents like reach out to the providers and kind of like essentially like scare them into submission of like you shouldn't be scheduling people so often. Right? Like, I mean, to
But
me
that's
that
what
is
I mean. I was like,
crazy shit.
I don't whether he thought that up or somebody below him. It came from somewhere. And again, for him, I'm like,
Course.
dude, you're making money. You're making money. You know the gist of how you're making money. Like you're not
Yeah.
all you're not that, naive enough to ignorant enough to be like, oh, we just did so well and we're so good for everyone. And that's why I've made millions of dollars in net profit and like, billions and billions and since I came in. And that's why
Yeah.
my net worth is X number, 10 million, whatever the hell it was. Like
Yep.
that's what, yeah, I go, damn well what you're doing. And it's not like you got in there and changed it. We're like, you know what? We're going to stop denying. Like, no, we're going to do this. So we're going to, not deny the most claims. We're not going to do this. We're not going to auto do stuff. We're going to get rid of the AI that generates stuff. We're going to not cause people to have to like have their whole second job be to debate the goddamn, claims and things like that. And, coordinate between the care and be like the go-between between the doctors or their providers
Yep.
and us. Like we're gonna make no, like there was none of that. So no, do I think they all sit in their ivory tower? I mean, they do sit in their ivory towers, but do they all do whatever? The minute stuff, no. But like they all know,
They know what's going on. Yeah.
they know what they're doing. Like they know how they're getting their money.
They know how they're getting
They're
it.
not,
Of course they
especially again,
do.
this for that kind of field. Like it's more, I could see maybe other fields were like, well, I didn't know things were that bad down below. But like for health insurance, like there's only one way you're making a profit. Like,
Well, and so there's so many different directions this conversation can go. But, if private health insurance is so great, like if our system of care and insurance and coverage is so great, why is there the amount of medical debt in this country that there is, and why do people accept that medical debt even exists? Like, this is the question I pose to the audience. I question to anyone I ask, like, why are you accepting that people can go into debilitating debt because they needed health care, right?
yeah,
Like there are plenty of things that you can get into debt for and with that are your own under your own control and you fucked up or you made bad financial decisions, like what have you. But like how can you look at someone who is trying to get something addressed or have some sort of major medical event or accident or whatever and it throws you into hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt? If you have health insurance, why does that happen? If the insurance is so good, why are we okay with that?
you're paying for the privilege of the option of treatment.
Paying for the privilege of the option of treatment. Let's
Because
say that
even
again.
you're paying for the privilege to have the option for treatment, I guess for treatment and coverage, all
There you
amended to
go.
because you
Wow.
sometimes you get the treatment, but yeah, like just because you have health insurance doesn't mean you're going to have it covered or that you're going to be able to get what you need. They'll knock it down. We think you want the generic version of this, and we're only going to cover X number of, if you need to rehab something. Well, we're only going to cover, even though the therapist thinks you might need 20, we're going to cover 10. Like that's
Yeah.
all we'll do. Like this and like, all kinds of things. It just, I mean, yeah, just take cancer alone. I think it's what is it? 1 in 3 people, I think, are going to
Hmm.
get cancer, are probably in some in their lifetime right now. That's the rate,
Yes.
any kind of cancer. And half of those people who get cancer are going to lose their life savings for treatment.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they're going to
Check
live.
out check out statistics from the American Cancer Society Action Network, which is the advocacy arm of the American Cancer Society, for more detail on those statistics. You are correct.
They're going to go, yes, they're going to have their life savings wiped out. And that I would say this, the caveat would be those are the people who actually have life savings. When you have, what's the statistic on the number of people who
Yeah.
can't afford a $400 emergency
Oh,
right
it's like
now in this
60%
country?
or something. Like no rainy
So
day funds. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like they don't even like, so just, I mean, a lot of those people are going to get cancer too, or get
Yep.
something and have, they don't even have any life savings or any kind of savings account to then get wiped out by it. So what happens then for
Yes.
them? And so this
So,
is where I go again with everything compounded with the cost of living and
of
existing.
course.
Like it's not even always just the medical debt. It's everything. It's everything. And then try as
Mm,
you might, like, yeah, you might get sick. An accident might happen on the job or off the job. You might develop an autoimmune disorder or a disease, or you may have something that you never knew you had flares up all of a sudden. Like,
right. And I challenge too. Some people are like, it's the whole like personal responsibility thing. I've heard people say like, well, people get medical conditions because of things they do, right? Like, of course, you like use drugs, drink alcohol, like, you know what I mean? Like make life poor in America, just bad lifestyle choices like with diabetes and poor eating, like poorer eating in other
yeah,
countries, right? So people place personal responsibility. But I challenge to be like, why, in terms of the health realm, are we like you're saying, setting people up to fail, like in a system that's based on sickness rather than proactive and preventive health, right?
because it
Why
doesn't
are we
make money.
accepting of like blaming people?
Because
Because it's more money.
it makes more money, and because people, a lot of people, some people don't want to do the work of actually having to overhaul the system. And they're like, well, it's just too hard and we just got to live with it.
It's
That's
too
just
hard.
how things are. And I'm like, no, that's a privilege take right there to be like, well, just got to fucking live with it. It's like, oh, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Great.
Cool, cool, cool. That's another episode title right there. Cool, cool, cool.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah. Just, 5 stars, clap for you. Like, you fucking assholes. Like, wow, why
Yelp
don't you tell
review.
that to the people?
I have a Yelp review for the American healthcare system. If you can give
Oh,
0 stars, I give it 0 stars.
I give it negative
Um,
0. That's right. We're
so
gonna
here's my, I love me the late Tim Russert, like so much. And Tim Russert was famous for his whiteboard, right? Like on election nights, where he would like hold up a whiteboard and like do electoral college math and like, da 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 da, right? So, this is me, Brittany. The major reason why I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, like the times that I was because of him prioritizing Medicare for all, publicly funded health insurance as a priority, right? Says all the things that I believe, right? And he would stand on the stage during debates and talk about like deductibles and copays and all that, right? And he's great on this. But I honestly don't think a significant portion of the privileged public actually knows what deductibles and copays and like all of those things are. Like a deductible, what is it? Like, I think people like Bernie or people who brought on a platform about like healthcare reform need to literally like the math of someone's plan. Like, I used to have a $7,000 deductible, and my max out of pocket for my employee spouse plan was like $13,500, meaning if I got in a car accident and my spouse had a heart attack, we would have been like $13,500 in debt immediately. Like, because you literally pay to have no coverage. You pay to
you
pay
pay
your
for the
own for
option. Yes.
$7,000.
You're paying all money already into a thing, and then you're still having to pay. And at some point, you might have the privilege of the option of maybe healthcare kicking in, health insurance kicking in and covering something,
Yes.
and usually not even covering everything
Yes.
after that once it kicks in.
After that 7,000, maybe you get, I think it was 20% copays, right? So
Yep.
after you pay all of your monthly premiums to
Yep.
your employer and you pay your $7,000 clear because that's your deductible, that means what you'll pay before insurance supports you. Like, then you will get $1 on every $5
Right. They don't, it's
paid.
usually, yeah, it's like an 80/20 or something usually. It's not even
80/20.
like insurance usually kicks in for anything, for hospital, any kind of thing. If you look at it, it's like after it's met,
Bullshit, man.
what is it? It's 80/20 or 70/30, whatever, something. Like it's never always 100% kicked in and covered after you've done all that. So that's what I mean by you're paying, you're paying, it's coming out of your paycheck every time. You're paying into these plans for the option, for the privilege of maybe the option of the health insurance deciding, oh yeah, we'll cover it or we'll cover some of it.
And if
It's
they
not like, oh,
cover
I
it,
just pay
great.
into it, so
But if they
therefore
don't,
I'm covered. I pay for
then
health insurance, therefore I'm automatically covered if something happens. No, because I
no,
got
you're
to make
not.
sure that I also go to the right thing and I'm in network and I got to do all this.
Don't
It's
even
like,
get started on networks and like
but you
why.
can, that's why we can't have people should be able to choose their doctors. Yeah, you're damn right they should, and not have to pay more because they find a doctor they like.
What if I'm on
Well, let me.
vacation in Colorado and I have a heart attack? And then it's just
Mhm,
like because I have the unfortunate reality that I was like not in my home area at the time, like why do I get financially fucked?
mhm.
Like I'm gonna use the term fucking fucked, I guess, a lot in this episode, but
Fine.
like seriously, it's so crazy. Like when you actually peel it back and think about it, why do we accept this? Okay, so I'm gonna pull up another couple, I love me my statistics, Brittany, right? So we wonder, like, I don't understand why we even talk about like are people covered? That's why I was never impressed with the Affordable Care Act because it's like, oh, great, you have access to private insurance on a marketplace that's run by the government. Great, it's still private insurance. It still fucking sucks.
Mhm,
Like it doesn't coverage doesn't do you shit if you have these high deductibles, high out of pockets that they can deny your claims.
mhm.
Like it doesn't do anything for you, which is what results in the medical debt, right? So here's the um just some statistics. This might be from 2022, might be a couple years old, so take it for what it's worth. 20 million people, nearly 1 in 12 adults, owe medical debt in this country. And people in the United States owe at least 220 billion in medical debt. 14 million people, which is 6% of adults, owe more than 1,000 in medical debt. And about 3 million people, or about 1% of adults, owe medical debt of more than $10,000. While medical debt occurs across demographic groups, people with disabilities or in worse health, lower income people, and uninsured people are more likely to have medical debt, unsurprisingly. But those are the key overviews, right? Why? Why is medical debt a thing? Why are we okay with that? It makes no
Yeah,
sense.
well, somebody's got to pay for those investors to have a meeting, which, by the way, he gets killed right outside of it and they just stop it there and move it to a Zoom. It's still went on. It was in
The
the next
event,
few
the
days.
investors conference.
Yes, they didn't stop
Yeah,
it. So also, if you need another reminder, corporate America doesn't give a fuck about you. CEO can literally be killed right outside the doors, and they
and
still,
they
they
kept the
just
meeting.
they just cancel it in person and move it to Zoom and have it pretty recently, like a day or two after or something. It's already happened. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they just
Cool,
moved it to Zoom for safety. So
cool,
again, I
cool,
say, well, in
cool,
case you want to know, workplaces care about you, they don't. You can be the
cool, cool,
CEO of a
cool.
company and get gunned down, and it will still go on. So and that's what my grandma I think was paying off, and that was,
Okay,
those were bills. And I'm sure just kind of things for it, or payments that kept coming for that. And I know, I mean, they didn't have a lot to begin with.
yep,
As cheesemakers and stuff, and she was always they're pretty frugal with everything right up until the day she died. But like they I know it wiped out, you
oh
know.
yeah,
I mean, they didn't have a ton saved, but I know it wiped out a significant portion. It took a while to kind of build anything back up again because
sure.
I don't know, a few months or a year that he was in like a nursing home or something for it before he died, as he died. But yeah, wiped it out. Like
Of
because he had to be
course.
hooked up to machines and had lung cancer. Like, but yeah, I mean, just wiped it out and was paying for years and years and years. And lucky that she could do it and had enough to do it, and that nothing happened to her in the immediate aftermath because, like, obviously, like my family, kids would have all paid for it, but like, yeah, she's paying off this stuff, and then like, what would have happened if she would have had something, a healthcare emergency immediately after?
Of course.
Like, she was in her 80s or whatever at that point. Like,
My dad didn't leave. I'm going to say this generically. He was unhappy with his longtime job for quite a while, right? He had
mhm.
worked at the same place for 20, 25 years. At the time that my mom got cancer, he was probably there for like 25 years, right? And he was very unhappy. he wanted to leave, find a different
Mhm.
job. He did not leave because the insurance was so good. And again, this is like I think this is an anomaly in that the insurance was so good. I'm not saying that as
Yeah.
like to support the system, but it's like he was chained to that job because he wasn't going to leave and change insurers and like risk everything going to shit when she was having this major medical event compounded with her mental health needs as well. It's like he was never going to do that.
But that too, I mean, like, so you think of his physical and medical or mental health. So he's dealing with all of this and having to take care of her and do all this and dealing with the stress of all this and then going to a job that is absolutely awful that he can't leave or he's going to have worse insurance at a time when they really need it. Like that and that, yeah, that goes back to our earlier points about, healthcare being tied to your job and whether or not it's like really good or bad by these standards, better than nothing. And people being chained to it and that being, an employer or, the power in the at the top and why there's no lack of workers' rights in this country. Because, and again, a lot of people just assume, oh, that's how it is. It's like, well, no, if you like to have your freedoms, you don't like to have anybody tell you what to do or have control over you. Guess what? That's a prime form of control.
It is. It
Yeah.
totally is.
I mean,
Why is
just,
it
yeah.
that people accept this? We were talking about this in
Yeah.
pre-production. Sorry, I have to say it like officially now because
Hmm.
it's so classy and so official. Um, I don't understand the disjunct though. Like I still don't understand the disconnect between like in the if we use the Brian Thompson Luigi Mangione situation as a case study. Like everyone's outraged, everyone's like not surprised, like everyone's, like all the things, right? Making all these like quips about in network, out of network, like snarking on the internet, like, having serious takes about it on the internet, like all of the things. But then there's still not this underpinning groundswell of we need to reform the system. What the fuck is that? I'm gonna say fuck so many times in this episode. I don't get it. This is my head knocking moment for like the last decade is like, why don't people vote their interests in this scenario? Like, why are we content to be fucked? People talk about claims, having to fight claims, do all the things all the time. And I'm like, then why don't you vote a certain way to like change that system? And they're just like, like, why are we
Yeah.
content in this scenario to be fucked over? I don't get it.
Change is scary. I think the news cycle is set up to just wash it away and go on to the next thing. Uh,
And I think we're already
so,
seeing that. I think we're kind of
oh,
over like the
100%. I
first,
mean,
like,
there's people from Hurricane Helene. There are people, it's winter. There are people living in tents and trying to have campers donated because they still don't have housing in Tennessee and Southwest Virginia and North
oh,
Carolina. I
oh
found
God.
some mutual aid things today, and they're looking for donations of like propane and fuel. And if anybody has campers to donate, we've got like people are going to be living in like little campers and like camping in tents over the winter because and like they're still trying to dig stuff out of the mud.
Oh my God.
Like that's nowhere in the news cycle. They still need help. Like that's been completely washed away, just like a lot of their shit. Like just we're on to the next thing. Like there's still people hurting for different things. So like I feel like again, like it's just gonna be on to the next thing. Or like, well, whatever. So I mean,
Brittany,
the short term thing, I think too, I would say for a segment of people that are really hurting, and this again is why the system is the way it is, and it's set up to keep people down. Because if you focus on making people fight amongst themselves about little things, there's no solidarity. If you focus on making things so miserable, people are literally worried about how am I going to get through the next day or the next week? How am I going to feed my family?
correct.
How am I going to get through all these jobs? I'm so goddamn exhausted from XYZ. And just again, the I'm sick, like whatever, like they don't feel like they have the energy, or it's harder for them to be like, yeah, let me find the time to do this. And again, the people
Right.
higher up, while still being pinched, are able to be like, well, oh, well, it's never going to change. And so the people who need to take to the streets or, take some actual action, they're just whatever. Again, we just, yeah, lose interest and we go on to the next thing. Or, the
Well,
holidays are coming up. So now everyone's like,
yes,
whatever.
totally. And you're hitting on something. I don't begrudge people who don't like I recognize that why I have time to do
Mhm.
this, to do healthcare focus groups that, like I pull together on Zoom and like all of that shit. I recognize that I have the ability to do that from a place of some sort of privilege. I do. Like I recognize that. And so like when you're fighting for your life, like you're not gonna have time or find those things, do those things. I get it, I respect it, and I'm not begrudging those people. But what I think is interesting is you, like you say, the disjunct and like the, non-coalescing of the people at the bottom, like gives the policymakers the ability to say, well, we don't hear from them.
Yes.
Well, we don't hear from them. I mean,
Don't hear from
people
anybody.
people aren't talking about it. Like our
Yeah.
constituents aren't telling us that they want it. It's like you damn right they aren't because they're too busy, as to use your quote, fighting for their life. That well, of course they aren't.
Or people are out or doing whatever, just, busy with something else. Or again, being like, well, it sucks, but I don't, it's to be too hard. I don't know how you change it. Or like, well, it's just the way it is. That's how it goes. And, hating it and still getting fucked by it, but able to make things work enough that their
Yeah,
entire being doesn't completely depend on it. Again, at the moment, now it could change, especially again when you talk about healthcare, like tune could change if something terrible happens. But
totally.
I mean, yeah, it takes constant sustained things and also like, especially for the healthcare. I mean, healthcare, real estate, they all have powerful lobbies. So it takes even
You're
more than
going,
just,
you're going the direction I want to go next.
I
Okay.
mean, the amount of money between paying the
Totally.
bonuses and lobbying, that's where your fucking money that they're gouging you for is going. It's not like they're turning around and giving it to people who have other medical needs. Like that's where it's in lining their pockets and they're writing legislation that makes sure nothing changes.
You connect to a great point, Brittany. You've heard me say this a time or two or a million. I believe that the only way to reform American politics is to first seriously take a look at reinstituting true campaign finance reform, right? Like cleaning up money in this system in campaigns, okay?
You want to drain the swamp, start with that.
That you have to. And then things that would systematically change Americans' lives as policy priorities. I firmly believe that if you instituted publicly funded healthcare, that you would see other significant social ills right now kind of naturally clean themselves up, right? So campaign finance reform, publicly funded health insurance. Okay. You brought up, we're talking about policymakers. Here's what I think is interesting, like a convergence of two of those things was a quote that I saw from Tim Walz, of all people. Now, I love me, Uncle Walz. Okay. Right. I love that his like greatest achievement is, hey, we feed kids breakfast and lunch in Minnesota, like all those things, right? Like kind of like the no-brainers. I love it. Okay. Brian Thompson gets killed. I'm finding it. This is horrifying. This is Tim. This is horrifying news and a terrible loss for the business and healthcare community in Minnesota. Minnesota is sending our prayers to Brian's family United Healthcare team. Now, sending the thoughts to the family and, like a company that has lost it, I get that part. But horrifying news and a terrible loss for the healthcare community. If you want to talk about even people who are supposed to be on the right side or the more progressive side, right? Saying that rather than it speaks to that we need healthcare reform, to me speaks volumes. Like I read
Mhm.
that and I was like, this is such an example of the problem.
It's looked at as a business. It's looked at as for profit. Again, it's all about money and it's not about healthcare. It's not about keeping people healthy to be able to, do things in their life. It's like, ooh, here's a chance for us to make a load of money off of
Mm,
profit, off of people who are sick and keeping them sick, keeping them unhealthy. I mean, again, you went ties pharmaceutical ties into all the crap in the food, everything. People need more and more stuff. And oh, good, we can gouge you for this and that. And oh, guess what? Well, you're gonna have to keep having this done, or oh, you're gonna have to keep having this, or oh, now we got you on the hook for that.
yep.
And guess what? If you die because of it, oh well, we got a lot of other people who still need it. So, like, it
Boop, boop,
doesn't,
boop.
there's a lot that people are always gonna, people need health insurance. People need that, people are always gonna have medical claims. So, guess what? Oops. Oh well.
Mm.
Like, patients are expendable. And yeah, I just, and for people, again, when they get mad about, oh, this or that, or, oh, why are we feeding kids lunches and free breakfast and lunches? And I was like, okay, cool. Instead of bitching about it, then why don't you ask, why are kids coming to school hungry in the first place?
Thank you.
Maybe their parent, maybe, their guardians can't afford to feed them. Huh. Maybe we need to look at food prices and the price of good food, like the price of food that would actually help kids' brains and grow and develop. Why are you not outraged about that? Why are you outraged at the richest country in the world that, again, can have just seemingly endless amounts of money to go bomb the fuck out of everywhere else in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Can't feed its own fucking kids or
Thank you.
people. People are dying of medical debt and needs. And, again, the
Mm-hmm.
country was to have the best research and the best medical medicine. And everybody comes here because they want their medical care. And, oh, we got the best. We got the #1 hospital in the world within our borders. But, we got people dying of fucking medical debt and being denied claims for things in this country. And yeah, that goes back to, why are you accepting it? Or why are you not asking the bigger question
Why are you not
of,
asking the bigger questions?
gee,
Why
what
are you
drove
not
what
asking?
drove this, or what has caused this? What has caused the chain of events that led to a CEO of a health insurance company being killed?
Yeah. Yeah. What are your parting thoughts, suggestions, takeaways, snarks?
Again, get involved in mutual aid if you can afford it, because powers that be are gonna fuck you. I, yeah, something. The system needs to be dismantled.
Ooh, that's the ultimate snark. Yeah, agreed. I want like for all the talk of systems change I hear, I want real systems change in this area. Because you know what? Here's my hot take. This is like a reverse hot take. I
Ooh,
don't want Brian Thompsons to be shot and killed in the street. I want a system where people don't do that. I
yeah.
want circumstances where that is not something that happens. Again, reasons in this specific person's scenario of the, alleged assailant, like all the things, put aside all circumstances. I want I want an America where that is not a thing.
Well, you want in America where, yeah, it's not a thing. It's not a targeted thing. I mean, anything happen to anybody, but yeah, it's not a targeted thing where everybody immediately goes, oh yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, and
And
people are literally like joking about it on the internet.
right. And again, collectively coming together, or like I said before, like not surprised. Or again, yeah, the same old things about, gun. Maybe we might actually have gun reform and it might come off the back of rich people going down. Like, wouldn't that be the thing? But like, yeah, or
Hey,
people being like, oh, yeah, mental health and all the other stuff suddenly isn't a thing. Cause yeah, everyone's like, oh, no, I can understand some.
mm,
I could see how that could happen. Like, huh,
yeah,
gee, isn't that kind of a red flag?
let's not all just shrug our shoulders and go, mm-hmm, yeah,
Yeah. But
that'd be
isn't that
cool.
a red flag where so many people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or like, oh, I could see some reasons why people would. Like, well, gee, isn't that a problem then? Isn't that a bad thing? Doesn't that mean we have a breakdown of something?
Let's do a follow-up when we learn more
Mm.
about more circumstances of this case. Because I just feel like we were too early into learning quote unquote facts about
Oh,
this to
I'm
really
sure
dig
there
in.
could be some great things that come out.
I think it's gonna be intriguing in the
Yeah.
next months and years. But let's come back to this. Let's go to what are we reading? I'm going to turn this into what do we suggest people read? I'm going to go back to End Medical Debt, which I've mentioned several times on this podcast. End Medical Debt, books on medical debt. I would suggest you read, and the way like debt collection has happened in this country related to healthcare. I think it's mind-boggling if you have the time and the ability to go to your local library or buy them online or whatever you need to do. I think that would be a great place to start. And
Yeah.
the Flint book that Brittany mentioned last time, I bought the Flint book and I'm excited to read it in like
It,
a I'm gonna be super angry sort of way.
well, ooh, you want to talk tying into this prescient and tying into health issues coming from your government knowingly poisoning you, and then guess what? Getting denied shit because you were told things were safe like your water, but so yeah, again, for all the people, I would say no, not everybody who has health issues, it's because it was their quote unquote fault. Like,
Thank you.
nope, nope. A lot of
Yeah,
times not it.
loop that one in.
Yep. I would recommend a book called The Price We Pay by Marty
Okay.
McCarty.
Okay.
He's a doctor. Um, the subtitle is What Broke American Healthcare and How to Fix It, and goes into,
Mm.
again, did a lot of stuff traveling around and why prices are this here and this there and the state of things, and gives some solutions
Sweet.
for
My
things.
goal, run. Like I mentioned at the beginning, need to run my goal, but my goal is to also get more people back on our virtual healthcare advocacy focus groups. I think this is the time to get people interested.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my goal. What goals you got?
I like that. I co-sign support
You
the
co-sign that as a
yep.
goal? Okay.
Um, yeah, again, I'm just keep reading, keep learning.
Keep reading, keep
Doing.
learning. I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. I have seen no dumb shit in the news other than this because all I've done is doom scroll this particular situation that we talked about, but so not the news. But I have watched a lot of the Great British Bake Off, as you know, and it's delightful. I suggest that everyone watches something as mindless and beautiful as the Great British Baking Show when the world is a hellscape.
There you go. There you go. Very
Any
good.
dumb shit in the news, any hot
Oh,
takes? I mean,
oh,
other than your standard Twitter
so
fare.
much. So much. Again, I'll tie it into just all the bombs being dropped, all the funding around the world for stuff. People cheering on rebels in Syria overthrowing the government, and it's really actually ISIS and Al Qaeda offshoots. The very ones that we were funding places to get rid of over there, we are suddenly now
Oh,
funding. So guess what? The government is willing to fund terrorists over there, but not give you healthcare.
hey,
So
hey.
America, just cool, cool, cool. Yet again.
Doing my joyful running arms for
That's
anyone
very good.
not watching on, like pretending like I'm running with like a sarcastic, happy look on my face.
Yep, very good.
Cool, 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 cool.
How are we going to
Mm,
afford it?
how are you gonna afford it? I mean, the Department of Government Efficiency is totally gonna figure it out. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking really forward to it, actually.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
The times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Self-enrichment, definitely, definitely just, but yeah, coded as efficiency. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I'm sure the
Yay.
guy that makes cars and vehicles that blow up and start on fire and cook people in it is gonna help efficiently make the government more streamlined. The two guys, the other guy that crashed a company, like fucking got rich off of like destroying a company,
Stop it.
I'm
It
sure
hurts
are
my brain.
absolutely going to make things more efficient when all they're doing is a grab for more
Absolutely. Of
more
course.
military contracts. So they'll definitely start with the Department of Defense that's
Of
failed its last 7
course.
audits. Amazing efficiency.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking
Oh,
so
100%.
forward to it. I'm also really looking forward to dying of polio. Um, it's my
Hey,
next thing
you and
that I'm really
FDR,
excited
baby.
about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to the return of a lot of really nostalgic things including polio.
Well, you can rest assured if insurance isn't going to cover anything for it. So,
Oh,
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 ka
you sweet. Um, got my COVID shot, this past fall. And if my health insurance hadn't covered it, they think administering those suckers at a health care facility rather than Walgreens, they think it's worth $429. Pop. Stay healthy out there, folks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, Brittany, I think your ever classic sign off is the most important it has ever been for this episode. Do you want to give that to everybody?
Well, stay vigilant, read a lot, keep well, everybody. Try your best, and remember, always bring logic to a dumb fight.
Love it. All right. It's been real. Bye.
Bye.